Thursday, 5th of November, 1942. Dear Kitty, the British have finally scored a few successes in Africa, and Stalingrad hasn't fallen yet, so the men are happy, and we had coffee and tea this morning. For the rest, nothing special to report. This week I've been reading a lot and doing little work. That's the way things ought to be. That's surely the road to success. Mother and I are getting along better lately, but we're never close. Father's not very open about his feelings, but he's the same sweetheart he's always been. We lit the stove a few days ago, and the entire room is still filled with the smoke. I prefer central heating, and I'm probably not the only one. Margot's a stinker. There's no other word for it. A constant source of irritation, morning, noon, and night. Anne. Monday the 9th of November, 1942. Dearest Kitty, yesterday was Peter's birthday, his 16th. I was upstairs by 8, and Peter and I looked at his presents. He received a game of Monopoly, a razor and a cigarette lighter. Not that he smoked so much, not at all. It just looked so distinguished. The biggest surprise came from Mr. Van Daan, who reported at 1 that the English had landed in Tunis, Algiers, Casablanca and Oran. This is the beginning of the end, everyone was saying, but Churchill, the British Prime Minister, who must have heard the same thing being repeated in England, declared this is not the end. It is not even the beginning of the end, but it is perhaps the end of the beginning. Do you see the difference? However, there's reason for optimism. Stalingrad, the Russian city that has been under attack for 3 months, still hasn't fallen into German hands. In the true spirit of the annex, I should talk to you about the food. I should explain to you that the real glutton's up on the top floor. Bread is delivered daily by a very nice baker, a friend of Mr. Clemens. Of course, we don't have as much as we did at home, but it's enough. We also purchase ration books on the black market. The price keeps going up. It's already risen from 27 to 33 guilders. That's for mere sheets of printed paper. To provide ourselves with the source of nutrition that will keep, aside from the hundreds of tins of food we stored here, we bought 300 pounds of beans, not just for us, but for the office staff as well. We'd hung the sacks of beans on hooks in the hallway, just inside our secret entrance, but a few seams split under the weight, so we decided to move them to the attic, and Peter was entrusted with the heavy lifting. He managed to get 5 of the 6 sacks upstairs with intact, and was busy with the last one when the sack broke and a flood, or rather a hailstorm, of brown beans went flying through the air and down the stairs. Since there are about 50 pounds of beans in that sack, it made enough noise to raise the dead. Downstairs, they were sure the house was falling down around their heads. Peter was stunned, but then burst into peals of laughter when he saw me standing at the bottom of the stairs, like an island in a sea of brown, with waves of beans lapping at my ankles. We promptly began picking them up, but beans are so small and slippery that they roll into every conceivable corner and hole. Now, each time we go upstairs, we bend over and hunt around so we can present Mrs. Van Daan with a handful of beans. I almost forgot to mention that Father has recovered from his illness. Yours, Anne. P.S. The radio has just announced that Algiers has fallen. Morocco, Casablanca and Oran have been in the British hands for several days. We're now waiting for Tunis. Tuesday the 10th of November, 1942. Dearest Kitty, great news! We're planning to take an 8th person into hiding with us. Yes, really. We always thought there was enough room and food for one more person, but we were afraid of placing an even greater burden on Mr. Kugler and Mr. Kleiman. But since reports of these dreadful things being done to the Jews are getting worse by the day, Father decided to sound out these two gentlemen, and they thought it was an excellent idea. It's just as dangerous whether there are 7 or 8, they noted rightly. Once this was settled, we sat down and mentally went through our circle of acquaintances, trying to come up with a single person who would blend in well with our extended family. This wasn't difficult. After Father had rejected all the Van Daan relatives, we chose a dentist named Albert Dussel. He lives with a charming Christian lady who's quite a bit younger than he is. They're probably not married, but that's beside the point. He's known to be quiet and refined, but he seemed, from our superficial acquaintance with him, to be nice. Miep knows him as well, so she'll be able to make the necessary arrangements. If he comes, Mr. Dussel will have to sleep in my room instead of Margot, who will have to make do with the folding bed. After Dussel arrived, Margot slept in her parents' bedroom. We'll ask him to bring along something to fill cavities with. Yours, Anne. Thursday the 12th of November, 1942. Dearest Kitty, Miep came to tell us that she'd been to see Dr. Dussel. He asked her the moment she entered if if she knew of a hiding place, and was enormously pleased when Miep said that she had something in mind. She added that he'd need to go into hiding as soon as possible, preferably Saturday, but he thought this was highly improbable, since he wanted to bring his records up to date, settle his accounts, and attend to a couple of patients. Miep replayed the message to us this morning. We didn't think it was wise to wait so long. All these preparations require explanations to various people, who we feel ought to be kept in the dark. Miep went to ask Dr. Dussel if Dr. Dussel couldn't manage to come on Saturday after all, but he said no, and now he's scheduled to arrive on Monday. I think it's odd that he doesn't jump at our proposal. If they pick him up on the street, it won't either help his records or his patients, so why the delay? If you ask me, it's stupid of father to humour him. Otherwise, no news. Yours, Anne. Tuesday, 17th of November, 1942. Dearest Kitty, Mr. Dussel has arrived. Everything went smoothly. Miep told him to be at a certain place in front of the post office at 11 a.m. when a man would meet him, and he was at the appointed place at the appointed time. Mr. Kleiman went up to him, announced that he was the man he was expecting to meet, was unable to come, and asked him to drop by the office to see Miep. Mr. Kleiman took a tram back to the office while Mr. Dussel followed on foot. It was 11:20 when Mr. Dussel tapped on the office door. Miep asked him to remove his coat so the yellow star couldn't be seen, and brought him to the private office, where Mr. Kleiman kept him occupied until the cleaning lady had gone. On the pretext that the private office was needed for something else, Miep took Mr. Dussel upstairs, opened the bookcase and stepped inside, while Mr. Dussel looked on in amazement. In the meantime, the seven of us had seated ourselves around the dining table to await the latest addition to our family with coffee and cognac. Miep first led him into the Franks family room. He immediately recognised our furniture, but had no idea we were upstairs, just above his head. When Miep told him, he was so astonished he nearly fainted. Thank goodness she didn't leave him in suspense any longer, but brought him upstairs. Mr. Dussel sank into a chair and stared at us in dumbstruck silence, as though he thought he could read the truth on our faces. Then he stuttered, but are you nicht in Belgium? The officer, the auto, they were not coming. Your escape was not working. We explained the whole thing to him, about how he deliberately spread the rumour about the officer in the car to throw the Germans and anyone else who might come looking for us off the track. Mr. Dussel was speechless in the face of such ingenuity, but could do nothing but gaze around in surprise as he explored the rest of our lovely and ultra-practical annex. We all had lunch together. Then he had a short nap, joined us for tea, put away the few belongings Miep had been able to bring here in advance, and began to feel much more at home, especially when we handed him the following typewritten rules and regulation for the secret annex, a Van Daan production. Prospectus and Guide to the Secret Annex. A unique facility for the temporary accommodation of Jews and other dispossessed persons. Open all year round, located in beautiful, quiet, wooded surroundings in the heart of Amsterdam. No private residences in the vicinity. Can be reached by trams 13 or 17 and also by car and bicycle. For those to whom such transport has been forbidden by the German authorities, it can also be reached on foot. Furnished and unfurnished rooms and apartments are all available at all times, with or without meals. Price, free. Diet, low fat. Running water, in the bathroom, no bath, and on various inside and outside walls. Cosy stoves for heating. Ample storage space for a variety of goods. 2 large modern safes. Private radio with a direct line to London, New York, Tel Aviv and many other stations. Available to all residents after 6 p.m. No listening to forbidden broadcasts with certain exceptions, i.e. German stations may only be tuned in to listen to classical music. It is absolutely forbidden to listen to German news bulletins, regardless of where they are transmitted from, and to pass them on to others. Rest hours. From 10 p.m. to 7:30 a.m, 10:15 on Sundays. Owing to circumstances, residents are required to observe rest hours during the daytime when instructed to do so by the management. To ensure the safety of others, rest hours must be strictly observed. Free time activities, not allowed outside the house until further notice. Use of language. It is necessary to speak softly at all times. Only the language of civilized people may be spoken, thus no German. Reading and relaxation. No German books may be read, except for the classics and works of scholarly nature. Other books are optional. Calisthenics, daily. Singing, only softly, after 6 p.m. Films, prior arrangements required. Lessons, a weekly correspondence course in shorthand, courses in English, French, maths and history offered at any hour of the day or night, payment in the form of tuition, example, Dutch. Separate department for the care of small household pets, with the exception of vermin, for which special permits are required. Meal times. Breakfast, 9 a.m. daily except for public holidays and Sundays, approximately 11:30 on Sundays and public holidays. Lunch, a light meal, from 1:15 to 1:45. Dinner may or may not be a hot meal. Mealtime depends on news broadcasts. Obligations with respect to Supply Corps. Residents must be prepared to help with office work at all times. Baths. The Tim bath is available to all residents after 9 a.m. on Sundays. Residents may wash in the downstairs lavatory, kitchen, private office or front office as they choose. Alcohol for medicinal purposes only. The end. Yours, Anne. Thursday, 19th of November 1942. Dearest Kitty, just as we thought, Mr. Dussel is a very nice man. Of course, he didn't mind sharing a room with me. To be honest, I'm not exactly having a stranger use my things. But you have to make sacrifices for a good cause, and I'm glad I can make this small one. If we can save even one of our friends, the rest doesn't matter, said Father. And he's absolutely right. The first day Mr. Dussel was here, he asked me all sorts of questions. For example, what time the cleaning lady comes to the office, how we've arranged to use the bathroom, and when we're allowed to go to the lavatory. You may laugh, but these things aren't so easy in a hiding place. During the daytime, we can't make any noise that might be heard downstairs. And when someone else is there, like the cleaning lady, we have to be extra careful. I patiently explained all this to Mr. Dussel, but I was surprised to see how slow he is to catch on. He asks everything twice and still can't remember what you told him. Maybe he's just confused by the sudden change and he'll get over it. Otherwise, everything is fine. Mr. Dussel has told us so much about the outside world we've missed for so long. Here's sad news. Countless friends and acquaintances have been taken off to a dreadful fate. Night after night, green and grey military vehicles cruise the streets. They knock on every door, asking whether any Jews live there. If so, the whole family is immediately taken away. If not, they proceed to the next house. It's impossible to escape their clutches unless you go into hiding. They often go around with lists, knocking it only on those doors where they know there's a big haul to be made. They frequently offer a bounty, so much per head. It's like the slave hunts of olden days. I don't mean to make light of this, it's too tragic for that. In the evenings when it's dark, I often see long lines of good, innocent people, accompanied by crying children, walking on, ordered about by a handful of men who bully and beat them until they nearly drop. No one is spared. The sick, the elderly, children, babies and pregnant women, all are marched to their death. We're so fortunate here, away from the turmoil. We wouldn't have to give a moment's thought to all this suffering if it weren't for the fact that we're so worried about those we hold dear, whom we can no longer help. I feel wicked sleeping in a warm bed, while somewhere out there my dearest friends are dropping from exhaustion or being knocked to the ground. I get frightened myself when I think of close friends who are now at mercy of the cruelest monsters ever to stalk the earth, and all because they're Jews. Yours, Anne.